Welcome back to another video. If you've lived anywhere near Norfolk Southern's Asheville district, otherwise known as the AS line, over the past several years, you've known exactly what it's felt like. Silence. For a long time. The only sound on these rails was the wind. But recently, something incredible happened. The ground started shaking again. The horns started echoing through the mountains. Our coal trains are officially back. And rumor has it, a lot more traffic is on the way. In today's video, we are going to take a deep dive into the roller coaster history of the AS line. We're going to look back at the busy days before 2018, talk about the corporate decisions that completely wiped this line clean, and look at the ghost town era after 2020, including the abandonment of the nearby BL line, and discuss how close nature came to sealing its fate forever after Hurricane Helene. Finally, we'll talk about the absolute miracle of its resurrection. Grab a drink, get comfortable, and let's get into this story. To understand why the return of these trains is such a big deal, we have to look back at what the AS line used to be. Historically, this route was a vital artery for the Southern Railway. It carved its way through some of the most rugged, beautiful, and unforgiving terrain in the Southeast, including the legendary Old Fort Loops, where trains have to traverse 13 miles of track just to move 3 miles forward as the crow flies. Prior to 2018, the AS line was a railfan's paradise. It wasn't just a secondary branch. It was alive. You could stand trackside at any given day and catch massive, roaring coal trains heading to power plants like the Marshall Steam Station. But it wasn't just coal. This line saw heavy manifest trains packed with mixed freight, local switchers serving regional industries, and endless varieties of rolling stock. It was a fluid, fully signaled operation backbone for Norfolk Southern's mountain operations. If you had told someone back then this line would see 0 trains a day, they would have called you crazy. But then corporate restructuring walked into the boardroom. In 2019, Norfolk Southern rolled out a massive corporate overhaul strategy called the Top 21 Operating Plan. This was NS's specific flavor of precision scheduled railroading, or PSR, pushed heavily by the CEO at the time, James Squires. Now, railfans and railroaders have plenty of words for that era of corporate management. Most of them are not friendly. The goal of the Top 21 plan was simple. On paper, cut costs, bypass regional yards, and maximize profitability by consolidating traffic onto fewer, insanely long trains. But for mountain routes like ours, the Top 21 plan was a death sentence. The impact hit like a cascade of falling dominoes. First, they went after the coal trains, rerouting and altering traffic patterns. Then, about a year later, the hammer dropped on the manifest and mixed freight trains. Just like that, they were gone. But NS didn't stop at just removing the trains. To save a buck on maintenance, they tried to completely designal the line and pull the plugs on the system. They filed a request to do this, but thankfully the Surface Transportation Board stepped in. The STB saw what they were trying to do and rejected the railroad's request, forcing NS to leave the signaling infrastructure intact. Even so, the damage was done, and the line was effectively mothballed. Welcome to the post-2020 era. The AS line became a ghost line. Rust began to cover the tops of the rails. Weeds crept into the bows. Occasionally, a high rail truck, or the local, would pass by. But the thundering echoes of Class 1 railroading were completely dead. And it wasn't just our line that suffered. Just over the state line in Tennessee, the BL line, which ran between Bulls Gap and White Pine, suffered a worse fate. Around the same time, Norfolk Southern completely abandoned operations on the BL line. severing a critical shortcut that had connected Tennessee coal fields straight into the heart of the Carolinas. If you wanted to see a train, you had to travel miles away to the main lines. It felt like corporate greed had won, and the mountain lines were destined to be reclaimed by nature.
Historic flooding, high winds, and more heavy rain are expected as Helene makes its way to the mountains. This morning had a bit of a power blip right there.
Residents all over Asheville are nervous. Thousands remain tonight without power, and there's anxiety building over basic supplies.
And then came late September 2024. Nature decided to throw a punch that many thought would be the final blow to these tracks: Hurricane Helene. The storm absolutely devastated western North Carolina and East Tennessee. Unprecedented flooding and massive mountain landslides tore through the region. The AS line was right in the crosshairs. Entire stretches of track were left suspended in midair. As the ground beneath them washed away, mountain slopes collapsed onto the right-of-way, and the critical rail bridges, like one of the rail bridges crossing the Pigeon River in Newport, Tennessee, were completely destroyed. For months, the future of the line hung in the balance. Rail historians wondered if Norfolk Southern would simply file for permanent abandonment instead of spending millions to repair a line that wasn't even seeing regular traffic. But the community, local businesses, and regional infrastructure needed these lines. Norfolk Southern and contracted crews undertook a truly monumental engineering feat. They hauled in over 140,000 tons of stone ballast, cleared thousands of downed trees, stabilized collapsing mountainslides, and completely rebuilt the historic Old Fort Loops. By the spring of 2026, against all the odds, the AS line was structurally restored. And that brings us to right now. Just a few weeks ago, in July of 2026, the silence was shattered for good.
Norfolk Southern, milepost 62.9, no defect.
Norfolk Southern officially reactivated the BL line. A roaring coal train marked the official reopening, bringing the Catawba coal movements back to their original pre-2018 routing through Bulls Gap and down into the AS line to the Marshall Steam Station. Seeing those coal trains back on our rails is nothing short of a miracle. But here's the most exciting part. This is just the beginning. With the current corporate leadership looking to maximize network fluidity and bypass congested mainlines, there's a very high possibility that we are going to see more than just coal trains. Rumor has it that manifest trains, mixed loads, maybe even intermodal trains or auto racks and empty grain trains could start utilizing this mountain pass once again to relieve pressure on other parts of the Norfolk Southern network. The AS line is no longer a forgotten piece of history. It's a living, breathing mainline again. Sadly, though, this isn't going to last forever, as Duke Energy is looking to close all of its coal generators by 2034, putting an end to the coal trains along the BL line and the AS line. And the BL line will most likely be abandoned again, and this time probably for good. So catch these trains while you can, because they won't be here forever. And with that, I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.